Hello class, and welcome to my mini lecture for our Black Mirror media analysis and comparison on some of the theories we've studied for this course so far. For this video, I will be discussing the display of the theory of technological determinism, or as McLuhan referred to as the medium theory, in regards to the very first episode for the Black Mirror series entitled The National Anthem. As we understand that technology has a great hold on our society, it's done its job well, and it gets displayed a lot all throughout Black Mirror series. In our first module, we discussed the four main sociological theories, also known as the Big Four, which are some of the possible explanations for the way us and technology interact with each other. So the idea seems to contradict our understanding of our own creations, since we believe that we have the ultimate say and power over authority. Since we believe that if we were the ones to create it, then we can also stop or change its actions. Just as we hear today with the advancements of AI, there is the underlying hope for AI not needing constant human involvement in order to update, but rather it learns through its experiences and with interactions in society, so just as we humans do. With these automated updates, how can we determine or trust that these tools won't begin to dictate our actions? In this video, I'll be breaking down some of the key scenes in this episode that highlight a world that we already live in, where technology acts on and forces us to react along with it. First, we must understand what is technological determinism. In its most extreme form, it's the idea that the introduction of our new technologies produces direct and inalterable societal changes. So essentially, that our production of technology is shaping our society rather than the other way around. The idea follows that essentially it has its own autonomy. Technology has its own autonomy, where one invention can build on its own and into another as well. So an example of this would be Moore's Law, which states that the computers could technologically improve themselves over their lifetime. So he states that certain functions of microchips double every 2 years, which aligns with the theory that technology is evolving on its own. The idea also involves that there's no human intervention as well. Rather, the technology inevitably progresses without any involvement of any other actor. So, reading from the Marshall McLuhan from the readings of Marshall McLuhan on this topic, he explains that this exchange, which is the enhancement of the technologies that we are creating, is a sacrifice that we are making without realization. So where these tools become a phantom extension of our own limbs, objects that we would do and create with on our own. So machines being extensions of our hands, radios extensions for our voices, cars for our feet, etc. He argues, or his argument also pertains to the issue that we can't entirely understand these tools unless another one dominates it. So whatever the dominating tool of our life is, we cannot entirely understand it until something else takes its place. There also follows the idea of humanity conquering the world through our creations. So then, rather than needing the little things that we already have, we use things such as these machines that we've created to extend out. Where times as today, we have the most knowledge of outer space than we did in any other lifetime. So we see the extreme side of technological determinism, and that we see the argument that human involvement holds no power over the evolution of technology, where even the simple production of these tools can inevitably lead to greater things that we might not even see coming. Overall, it simply is just understood as technology shaping society without us having any impact into it. In the very first episode of the show entitled The National Anthem of Black Mirror, taking place in the UK, a princess from the British royal family is kidnapped and held for ransom with a video that was released on YouTube. The ransom is demanded that the Prime Minister engage in sexual intercourse with a pig, all while being broadcasted on live TV. Though the YouTube video was uploaded late night of early morning into the next day, it went viral by that morning. The Prime Minister and his team were quite curious about the whole situation in regards to if it was true, how real it was, and who the kidnapper even was to begin with. In order to stop the story from spreading around everywhere, they issued de-notice letters to all forms of the press, which are essentially strong-worded letters to the broadcasters to stop them from displaying the video on their channels. Though by morning, since the video had gone viral and was shared on all platforms throughout YouTube and shared from people sending them to one another, the news platforms denied and ignored all the letters that were sent to them and still arranged to have them displayed on their channels, which essentially grew tens of millions of views by that morning. The video contained a part with a list of specific demands for the arrangements, where the action had to take place on a live broadcast with no stops or interruptions. There couldn't be any replacements for the Prime Minister either, as the kidnapper wanted the Prime Minister himself. The government had worked on tracking down the kidnapper before the time runs out, as well as controlling the whole narrative of the situation, which essentially only makes the kidnapper angrier and more threatening of the issue. With the domination of social media taking over the story, the public opinion goes from siding with the Prime Minister not engaging in the act to rooting for the display, or the public display specifically, of him with a pig, which essentially in the end leaves him with no other choice. The first key moment in this episode that highlights the theory of technological determinism deals with the fundamental idea of technology being out of the hands of humans, where the second the video is uploaded online, it immediately takes off and cannot be censored, where we see the examples of the autonomy of these tools. The world of the internet has a mind of its own and works in a very particular way, so the orders of the government to these media platforms was not followed, and eventually the video takes off and is reposted to many other channels and shared with many other people. Because of this, there's a level of display with the power of the internet compared to even the power of the British government, being that the technological tool of the internet and these social platforms is an entity that cannot be contained even by the works of the government because of the speed that it works at. The very demand of this situation, again, because the video was posted in very early morning with a deadline of 4 p.m. that same day, there's no allowance for thought of this situation, just mere action from the Prime Minister. Langdon Winner's theory follows along with this idea as well, where he explains that technology has forms of life, meaning that they create their own versions of power dynamics and how decisions should be made, which we clearly see in this case, since the digital speed from these media platforms has gained the right of the power of the situation. The next main point in this episode that shows evidence for displays of this theory would be the moral shifts that are made through the power of social media and news. Since everything is being displayed through the media, the government takes active role in monitoring the public emotions through this situation, all while using these social media platforms and other online pollings which began to grow. The Prime Minister and his team had worked till the very end on not speaking about the record entirely in order to keep it hush, which only seemed to upset the public more, since the longer he stayed silent, the more people wanted him to partake in the ransom demand. Because of the engagement of the public, with the devices picking up on what people are interacting with and how, there's a push for people to become more involved socially and emotionally influenced and how they should feel about the entire situation. Because of the great pull that the media had on the act, decisions are made in the favor of complying with the order as the number in the online polls reach demanding ones. The online world becomes the moral for the public, even if the outside world may feel different. Since we know that these social media platforms function on the engagement of the user, our algorithms push out content that has a greater emotional and shocking pull to us in order to hold our attention. Since this happens, a lot of the times the very same content continues to circle around, which alludes to a greater spectacle than there truly is. Now, the final key moment we see in this episode that displays the theory would involve the trouble that just 30 minutes before the broadcasting, the kidnapper lets the princess free and ends his own life, unfortunately. With everyone being so engrossed in the live event, they're all too consumed to even notice what was happening. The theory discusses technology creating spectacles rather than solutions, which is exactly what we see displayed here. Everyone had tuned into the broadcasting, even with the law enforcements that were placed to help initiate the rescue being distracted as well. Even tying into Mukland's idea of the medium is the message, we see this shown here with the whole situation creating a giant gathering of followers, with people forgetting entirely of the purpose for this action, which was the purpose of the rescue of the princess. Merely, they were now engrossed in just watching the Prime Minister engage in these sexual acts with a pig. The mere idea of watching someone involved in such acts would typically drive someone away. Yet, with the pull of technology, it had brought everyone together to bear witness to those very acts, willingly. Technology is conditioning the public to allow something they technically would want nothing to do with, all for the fact that it's being displayed to the world. Now, what should we, as the audience of this episode, take from this? As the audience, we often don't realize how much we're being shaped by the things we involve ourselves in. What's even more surreal is that us as the viewers of this episode also bear witness to these actions. Even though they are fictional, we're still participants in the involvement. Just as the fictional people hold close to what's happening on the news, we held close to the dramatics of the entire show, which make us think of how we would react if we were in a similar situation. The whole of the episode shows what takes place when the creators of technology become the ones to follow along with it. Just as the audience members sit uncomfortably watching the entire scene, so do we viewers, regardless of the fact that it's a fictional story. In the episode, it states that by the end of the broadcasting, it gained roughly a gathering of 1.3 billion watchers to the show. We can add ourselves to the pile as well. The episode mirrors our own lives and our world, hence its own name of the show. Our technology is what pushes the crises that we hear about and follow with. It pushed the public view, which eventually pushed the Prime Minister to his decisions. Our technology is not simply just a neutral tool, but a device created with very specific purposes, reshaping our political ideas and everyday interactions, and even the foundations of our morals. The idea of these being created for the purpose of informity and connection is not far from the truth, considering that we see people from all around the world interact with one another through these tools. But we also fail to realize that they keep us connected constantly to the creators themselves, attached with every last bit of personal information that we fill it with. The notion that these being private and personal tools has pushed us to trust what we obtain, trusting to put our own sensitive information into them. The production of these tools has worked with the help of sociology and psychology, understanding the workings of the human mind and how to create a shift in our society. I would like to thank everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.